I'm sorry, I don't know if we lost Mike, but one of the other things that we just, looking at this case, 100 times more ammonium nitrate in West Texas than were in the Oklahoma City bombing. And there's so few OSHA inspectors in Texas, it would take 98 years for OSHA to inspect each workplace in the state just once. And Mike, if you're back with us, another part of this is that OSHA doesn't inspect just impromptu. There typically needs to be a complaint. And if workers don't feel comfortable lodging a complaint, then you can imagine that certain things don't get brought to the attention of OSHA, which, in my view, is another excuse for unionization.
Can you hear me now, David?
Mike, are you back with us?
Can you hear me? Hello?
All right. Well, we may have lost Mike. But Daniel Marans, you've also spent a fair amount of time looking at this particular case. What was your, in both reading all the stuff that Mike Elk has written about this and the understanding about what happened, and just how sort of lax the regulations are for so many of these plants. It seems to me, I don't know if a fire could have been avoided, but certainly you wonder whether some of this might have been contained if there had been better regulation of some of this.
Can you hear me, David?
Yeah, I'm... David,
I'm hearing Daniel Marin, so that's quite all right. A few minor technical issues on this end, but not a problem. But again, folks, keep in mind one of the key issues. These fires and these accidents, they don't just happen in a vacuum. Sure, it's an accidental fire, which then causes which could cause things to be even more dangerous. But part of keep in mind that some of the people who were killed in West Texas were firefighters, volunteer firefighters. They went to the factory thinking they were just putting out sort of a large fire, and all of a sudden something explodes, and half a dozen volunteer firefighters are killed. A lot of people nearby are killed. This is sort of massive explosion, and I realize that a lot of people will look at this, and it was sort of buried in the news in part because of everything else that was going on this week. But this wasn't just, massive explosions like this are not just supposed to happen and take out the lives of volunteer firefighters and people reporting to the scene. The firefighters, somebody should have been tipped off that, hey, there's some really dangerous materials at this plant. You need to be really careful about this fire because things might explode. But if the plant has not reported any flammable chemicals to the government, how are volunteer firefighters or anybody else supposed to know that they could be walking into an incredibly dangerous, hazardous situation? And so your heart has got to go out to, the first responders, the people who thought that they were just going to be able to put out a fire, at least try to fight a fire. They had no idea that they would be facing some ginormous explosion like what they faced. And the fact that information was not expected or anticipated, the scenario of this explosion was not imaginable for people. Well, it was imaginable to anybody looking at this who realized what kind of chemicals were in this particular plant. Mike, I'm not sure. Are you still with us?
Yeah, can you hear me, David?
Okay.
Hello?
So, Daniel Marans, take it. Daniel Marans, I can hear you. Your perspective on all this.
Daniel's sitting down right now, Shuster.
Okay. So, you know what? Let's do this. Let's go ahead and take a break.
I'm here.
We'll get Daniel Marans patched in. I know a lot of his fans out there are very eager to hear his views on this and also some of the other things we've talked about in the show. And we're also going to talk with Cliff Schachter coming up about the other big story that happened this week, and that is the defeat of gun control and some of the difficulties that gun control activists and people who want common sense gun regulation, the challenges that all of us now face. We'll take a quick break. More Take Action News on the other side of this.